Strap on your tinfoil hats and prepare to alienate your family at Christmas because it's the 40k conspiracy theory and cryptid episode. I'm your host, Stoney, and I'm joined, as always, by Truth Seeker Matt.
The Emperor.
And Truth Seeker Welshie. And we're here to talk to you about all things 40k. And we're going to get things kicked off with a little bit of the show we like to call Hobbies Goings On, where we take a look at what the hosts have been doing in their 40k hobbies since last time we spoke. So who wants to kick us off? Welshie?
I have been busy. Yeah. I've played 3 games of 40k in the past 4 days. It's been pretty intense. Too much, if I'm honest. A little bit too much. All very enjoyable, but that's too much. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're practicing so that you can play 3 games in a day.
That's right. That's it. Yeah, 3 games in a day. That's next.
Why spread it out over numerous days when you can do it all in one day?
Exactly. No, 3 very good games. I played a very tough AdMech list in the week, which was nice. I was pre-warned that it was going to be like competitive level. The guy I was playing, local guy. That is Guy, the local guy. Yeah, if you're listening, hi Guy. I hope the LGT goes well. He's playing the London Grand and wanted to test out his list against me, so I had to build the spiciest list I could. So I took my Raven Guard, and it was a real tight game, real close, good fun. Much closer than I thought. I thought I was going to get absolutely smashed, but managed to stick to the shadows for a decent time and got beaten, but only by 1 or 2 points. So that was nice. And then I played Dark Angels, listener old Jimmy Big Nuts. He's coming on well. I think his 3rd game of 40k. And then I played an old friend of the show, Nick. I played his brand new Thousand Suns Codex, with brand new Magnus, brand new Psychic Shenanigans. Another really good game. So yeah.
Did he actually play Magnus?
He did. Yeah, he used Magnus.
Great.
Casts 4 psychic powers now, +2 to his cast. Knows every single psychic power in the Codex, which is exciting.
As he should.
Yeah. Really nice game. Very different game. Like they've really been. I know we talked about things getting more thematic, but the psychic phase was a different beast. It really was. They came into their own, and it was quite cool. So. Did that, and model-wise, I've just made a chaplain on a bike, new Primaris chaplain on a bike, gave him a beak, gave him a raven, gave him some raven skulls, and then everyone on Facebook just commented fight milk and put loads of gifs of Always Sunny, which I thought was spot on, so he will now forever be referred to as fight milk.
Nice. Yeah. He knows the power of the raven.
He does, yeah. There's 10 crows crushed into his morning breakfast, that's for sure.
Well, what about you, Matt? You look like you're working away on something there. What are you making?
Well, I've been the opposite of 40k busy. I've done nothing until now. So I just am shaking up some pink paint to go on my Sisters of Battle that I've been working on for ages. But yeah, other than that, I haven't done anything. I got completely obsessed with Warhammer Plus and watching all those episodes over and over again, and then for the last 2 weeks I've done no Warhammer at all.
Blimey.
Nice.
I mean, it didn't take me long to catch up with it because there hasn't been much added on.
No.
So my initial excitement has diluted it a bit.
That was always going to happen, but What we will do, if you're regular listeners, we'll come back to Warhammer Plus in a month or two's time and give our thoughts a few months in, I think.
Well, this works out quite well because Welshie, you've made good progress. Sounds like Matt, you've made 0 progress, and I feel like I've actually made negative progress this week. Because
you've dropped something.
Because I've got a couple of cats in May. And so far, so good on the Warhammer front. No Warhammer catastrophes with the cats, but they went to town. They went to town in the last couple of weeks, and there's been some casualties. To be honest with you, it was all kind of on a shelf that I'd had where I just putting stuff where I was kind of like, I'll get back to that, and I'll finish it off one day, kind of thing. So it's all these kind of half-finished projects that were kind of like precariously kind of half tacked together and just waiting to the worst possible shelf. Nothing finalized. Everything in very crucial states and all just like, smashed into a million pieces. So You know, if anybody wants to adopt a couple of cats, then hit up the Large Glass podcast.
It's the news. Wow. It's the chuffing news.
Have you heard? 6s are now 4s.
It's the news.
Gene Stealer Limo's back.
News.
Okay, first piece of news is, and we don't normally do this, but as we've got a couple of Slaanesh players on the show here, we thought this rumour engine interested us a lot, which is some kind of speaker-looking thing in a hammer. And that got the Slaanesh juices flowing, and I guess we're wondering, could this mean finally a Fulgrim, a Large Blast podcast prediction come to fruition?
Oh man, I don't think it's. I'm not. I can't go that far. I can't get my hopes up that far. But I'm pretty damn sure that looks like a Noise Marini Thunderhammer equivalent. I reckon we've got new Emperor's Children coming. I'm confident in that.
Remember? Oh man, I mean. I can't remember how long ago it was. It was a long time ago. I said it was going to be Black Templars and Emperor's Children box set. That was my starter box set theory.
This is more revisionist history from you, Matt. You keep doing this, making these crazy predictions, and then coming every time you see something, you're like, "Oh, I predicted it all the time."
Nah, this when I saw this rumor engine, I was initially before I opened it, I thought, "Oh, it's just a chaosy hammer," and then when I started thinking, like you say, that could be a speaker inside the hammer there, and just imagined blaring Slaanesh wailing hammers as they scream through the sky. Like one of those, did you ever them sticks you used to shake as a kid? You turned them like the other way up and they went... Yeah. Imagine that in a hammer, basically.
The least intimidating hammer ever.
Take that, Timmy Mallet.
I mean, because I'll be honest, I saw this as well, and I did have a similar. I did think maybe could it possibly be, but then there's a part of me that's like hammers. That's not really a very Slaanesh thing. Maybe it could be like a Chaos Dwarf or something. But I'm still holding out hope. I'm still holding out because it's got those. It's definitely got some Chaos tubing on the back of it.
It's got some mechadendrites, and the hand has got that. Noise Marine hands have got like wires going through the fingers like that. That's what kind of. Yeah, it made me think. Didn't look just straight Marine, but hey, fingers crossed.
So, new Wordbearer lore. We've kind of shit on them a bit in the past, but they are kind of cool. They've got some wicked demon guys. They've definitely got this wicked new demon model, Argyle Tal. Welshie, I think you wanted to talk about some of this new lore.
Yeah, well, we talked about Argyle Tal, this new Horus Heresy model that's coming out. Like a few episodes ago. It was one of our model spotlights, I think, and we all loved it. Just said what a great Horus Heresy it was, and it made me go back. It's not new lore, but it made me go back and listen to the Wordbearers books from the Horus Heresy, which I'd always put off because I'd always thought Lorgar's a piece of trash and it's not interesting, like we've always said. And god damn it, I was wrong. The Horus Heresy books have won me over. I still don't like Lorgar, but these two books I would seriously recommend if you want to find out a little bit more about Wordbearers and perhaps challenge your preconceptions. So the first one's the first Heretic and the second one's Betrayer, both by Aaron Dembski-Bowden, who normally writes all of the Night Lord stuff. But they're just great. It shows the Wordbearers in a different light. And there's a couple of things I wanted to tell you guys that I'm not sure you knew. See what your reaction was.
All right, then.
That I thought was quite funny.
Let's have it.
So in the first Heretic, you know how in all these books you kind of learn, it's the Black Rage, there's like Raven Guard can go into shadow, every legion's got its own kind of weird quirk. Turns out in this book that the Wordbearers' quirk is that they follow the Primarch exactly, like more than anyone else. They have they completely do everything he says. And this book follows this character, Argyle Tal, before he becomes demonized. And he's like really battling with this idea. Like he keeps thinking what he's being asked to do is wrong. And someone tells him that's his like genetic thing. He can't disobey the Primarch. Like he has no free will. And it's this battle of his like lack of free will. And that's like the Wordbearer's thing. And I thought that was really interesting that like, it follows he's the main character and he's struggling with this idea that he just has to do what he's told and he doesn't really want to, which is quite cool, I thought.
Well, there you go. It's always been our policy here on the Large Blast podcast to judge a book by its cover, but maybe we were wrong this whole time and we should start reading some of these.
I'd say so, yep. They battle, there's some custodies, you find out all about... You do feel a little bit sorry, like Lorgar's doing his best, and then the Emperor comes along and burns down one of his worlds and is like, I told you not to tell them to praise me. It's all gone. And he stood there with Booty, like looking down at him, and he makes the whole of the World Bearers Legion kneel in front of him. The Emperor does. Goes full douchebag and basically goes, you've been taking too long to conquer worlds and make them all worship me. You suck. Kneel before me. And that's what turns Lorgar down the path of like looking for alternative religion. And it's kind of some kind of almost sad.
Kind of prison yard style humiliation from the Emperor.
Exactly. And then in Betrayer, you get a really cool like bromance between this Argyle Tal character and Khan the Betrayer, as Khan's trying to like basically run the World Eaters by himself because Angron's lost his mind. And there's one bit where I actually respected Lorgar, where he takes the full brunt of the entire fire from a Warlord Titan. He just takes it. He's just in the crater. Everything disappears. And then he's still stood there. And it's actually pretty badass at that bit. He's got like...
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So
there you are, Lorgar. Yeah, maybe. There you go. More to Lorgar than meets the eye.
Exactly.
Oh God, you guys know how much we love talking about them, but there's a load more McFarlane toys out now. So if you wanted to drift out of the world of making hobby stuff and into the world of playing with action figures, then McFarlane has got your back once again with some what looks like decreasing in quality toys that are coming out and being more widely produced. We've got an Orc and a really ropey looking Gene Stealer. I think I saw something else on the internet, some other beast from.
There's a Reaver.
Maybe just more Orcs.
There's another Orc.
More Orcs that you can get.
And there's a Reaver. Yeah.
Yeah, but these are looking shoddier and shoddier. I can see the fucking mold lines on this Orc from here. And it's like a ridge the size of a goddamn peak. It's a mountain range. Mountain range of plastic down his fucking arm.
It's awful. They are awful. Like I know we've talked about these toys before and said that we hate them, but these were just... I wasn't ever going to do another bit in here on McFarlane toys, but these were so bad, I couldn't not mention them. The Orc is ridiculous. Like, it's this. He's skipped arm day and leg day, but he's an Orc. It doesn't make any sense.
Because I was thinking about this, these things must be doing well, right? Because otherwise the range would have died with the first lot that came out. And to be honest with you, the first lot that came out, you had the Necron, you had the Space Marine, and you had the Necron, and it's kind of like, all right, there's kind of like novelty pieces that and I thought like if people could want to paint them or do something like that, then okay, they're kind of fine. But these are increasingly becoming like He-Men of olden times, those big beefy, the Orc especially looks like he's straight out of the 80s He-Man range with those big beefy wrestler style arms and everything. Like it's just bizarre. But I guess that I don't know, do people want these as toys? I don't know, I suppose.
I just don't understand. I couldn't suggest why anyone would want them. Even when I think way back to the 90s for my toys, I wouldn't have got these. They just look shit.
But anyway, if you're interested in getting some, you can now add an Orc and a Gene Stealer to your collection. So enjoy that.
Rolling in my 6-4.
Right, welcome everybody to this part of the show where we're going to examine some of the cryptids, the cryptozoology, the unexplained monsters of the 40k world. What do you guys think about potential beasties of unknown origins in the 40k universe? Do you think that, are you believers? Do you think cryptids could be true in 40k?
There's definitely some untapped worlds out there, I think. There's definitely some unexplored areas we need to look into, maybe under Lorgar's bed.
This is how this is going to work. I've got some reports of some beasties seen around the galaxy. And I would like you to, after hearing it, we're going to discuss it a little bit, and you can give it a rating out of 5 Moulders for how much you believe it, or 5 Scullies for how much you disbelieve it.
And I want to believe.
And I know that you want to believe you're the molder of the group, Welshie. Matt, you're more the Scully type. So let's jump into this and listen to the first description of a beast.
It started like any other day for Draco Nazrim, the Imperial captain of the haulage ship Dominus. His orders were to haul a shipment of plaster steel to a nearby mining world of Onision 5, a short trip for an experienced captain like himself, but little did he know he wasn't just headed for Onision 5, but into a deadly chess match with a mythical Xenos monster. As the Dominus passed by a quiet asteroid field, it was suddenly grabbed by two monstrous tentacles made from jagged bits of old metal and stone. On the flight deck, Draco's mouth dropped as he saw emerging from the asteroid field the gargantuan frame of a void kraken. Reminiscent to the sea kraken of nautical tales, these enormous creatures dwarf most spacecraft and eat them whole using teeth the size of planets.
Oh my god!
Their flesh made from old bits of space junk and stone, some held together and given life. And even though sightings of these beasts is incredibly rare, scholars believe that they use these asteroid belts and drifting junk piles to camouflage themselves against any would-be prey that might happen to wander past. And unfortunately for Captain Nasri and his crew, they were the prey, and the Dominus was torn to ribbons. Only Captain Nasrim survived. Some people dismissed his tales as the blabbering nonsense of a man driven mad by the void of space. But the tales still persist. Spaceships mysteriously lost. Sightings of strange beings in asteroid fields. Are these the tales of shell-shocked space soldiers? Or hints to something bigger, lurking out there in the stars?
So there you go. So this first one was about the Void Kraken. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them.
Yeah,
I've heard of like void whales and big things that kind of float around out there in the unknown. But I didn't know anything about it. Like it's made of junk and metal.
Yeah, it's like your typical Kraken of old, only somehow it's like made up of bits of old dead spaceship. They believe, apparently, some of the truth seekers out there have formulated an idea that its larvae, like it shoots its larvae into a nearby planet, and it kind of gestates under the surface of the planet, causing loads of earthquakes and like lava flows and stuff, until it gets big enough where it kind of explodes out of the planet, sort of destroying a quarter of the sort of planet's surface, and flying off into space to join some kind of asteroid field and eat passing spaceships. Wow.
So they're alive. Are they demons? I mean,
well, that's it. We don't know.
What are they?
That's the nature of this cryptid. Who could say? I mean, do you think?
Spooky.
Have you heard of anything else like this potentially?
Yeah, I mean, void whale thing.
Yeah, the void whale, but I think that's a different thing because those are the kind of like pretty and they're.
But there was an amazing Battlefleet Gothic conversion that was being one of the ships being eaten by a kraken.
Wow.
I don't know if that's connected. So you can imagine old drunk spacefaring sailors in your Cornish bar telling stories of when they were younger on the
that's a good point.
Ploughing the void.
It is also, if you were a drunk sea captain, driving into an asteroid field might look a lot like being eaten by a monster made of junk. So
blame it on the giant kraken.
What if these are massive Hive Fleet ships that have been spotted, or survivor tales of the Hive Fleet? So they're not. They couldn't imagine that there's a giant alien with real tentacles, so they kind of saw it as the ships got ripped apart. They saw it as scrap and metal, but actually they just witnessed a bit of the Hive Fleet, and that's why it went so dark and spooky, because they're under the shadow of the warp. Because most of the galaxy hasn't even seen or heard of a Tyranid.
Yeah, maybe it could be an unknown Tyranid, like one that acts like that, and is some kind of creepy scout Tyranid or something.
Mecha Tyranid.
Maybe that's what they're running away from. I like the idea of something that gestates within a planet.
Yeah.
and rips the planet apart.
So yeah, there's several explanations. But how likely then do you reckon this is? Do you believe in the space kraken, or do you think that the space kraken is but a myth?
I think the space kraken. I think it's I know I want to believe, but as is often the case, it turns out to just be the janitor, and I think that this is a classic janitor. So I'm going to give it 3 Scullys.
3 Scullys. Oh, that's quite a lot of non-belief. All right, Matt, what do you think? Do you think that the space kraken could be real, or is it just a bunch of pissed sailors driving into asteroid belts?
I was always taught to believe drunk sailors, so I'm gonna say 2 Mullins or whatever they are.
2 Moulders.
Yeah, 2 Moulders.
Okay, cool. A new rating has entered the system. 2 Mullins has been entered.
How likely do you think it is the kraken can pull off some sweet kickflips?
Cool. Well, I also think that it's fairly possible. I'd give it a Moulder. I think that stranger things have happened out there in the depths of the 40k universe. Let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Warhammer 40,000 is home to some of the foulest creatures a human mind can comprehend. Killer robots, ravenous aliens, and murderous demons are just some of the creatures you can expect to be fending off on a day-to-day basis. But even in the grimdark of the future, there are some creatures that are so rarely seen and with such terrifying consequences that they have become the stuff of horror stories and folklore. The Slough are such creatures. Their name is only spoken occasionally in tall tales around the campfires of the Hive slums, and few facts are known for sure. Of the few people that have seen one and survived have often gone completely insane and described their experience as having their dreams eaten by the beast. Although the Slough have largely been dismissed throughout the universe as nothing more than a myth created up by madmen, there has been references made to them in the folklore of other races as well. The crude talk of a maggot man, and the elder tell tales of the worm that walks and know to fear him with their lives. The Inquisition also takes reports of suspected Slough contact seriously and has lost several experienced inquisitors responding to sightings. The only information that they could find was that most sightings occur on the scenes of battles or massacres as if they feed on death itself. Whether they be folklore or a real Xenos threat, one thing is for sure. They are one of the most feared and ancient races in 40k legend.
So there we go. There we have it. The Slough. What do you think of them? They're these kind of big worm-based guys that are sort of basically made of a big mass of worms that's kind of all held together in a human-type shape. What do you think about these lads?
Well, I have heard rumours of these before.
Yeah, they sound familiar.
I think that there is possibly some records lost to the Imperium from 30k era, because I'm pretty sure these have appeared in some of the lost Horus Heresy documents before in a battle, and they're described exactly as you say, like men made up of bodies of maggots, a little bit like Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas. They're basically the boogeyman. And that's what they're all about.
Yeah, just a big sack of worms.
Yeah.
But what's I thought was quite cool, like reading up about them, is just the way that the Imperium treat them. And the way the Inquisition treat them, it is like proper X-Files things where someone will come and be like, "Oh, I saw this guy and he was made of worms," and they'll be like, "Wow, this guy's mad. He's mental. We'll just get him out of here for you." And they take him to the back room and like dose him up with penfanol or whatever it's called to make him tell the truth. Go out and then try to find these Slough guys. And most of the time, they either end up dying or having their dreams eaten in some kind of Lovecraftian horror show.
Yeah, I was just trying to look to see if I could find the
because I think that we might have mentioned them, if not on air, but at least to us afterwards in the Xenos episode that we did as well. We might have talked about them.
They seem familiar, but not the name. Their name doesn't seem Slough.
Slough. That's how it's SLAUGHTA. GTH.
They like throwing in locations, don't they? We've got Birmingham and Slough.
It's
Yeah.
I think I might have found some lost documents as to why they've been expunged, because they're linked to one of the most heretical of the various legions, the Dark Angels.
Ooh. Some new information just appearing. Come on, Welshie, let's turn it on. These truth seekers at home.
They were battled by the heretical Dark Angels in the Rangdan area of the galaxy in late M30.
Right. Well, there you go. There are actually some records of them. Well, so how realistic do you think it is that these guys exist? Some kind of alien? These guys, are they aliens or are they chaos? I don't know. What do you guys think they are, and how likely do you think they exist?
I think these are. I believe these. We found a couple of lost documents. There's mention of them. We're sure they've appeared on the podcast before. Maybe they've got into our minds somehow. I'm going to give them 4 Moulders.
Oh, high score. 4 Moulders from Welshie. What about you, Matt?
I actually think that it's all a cover-up. It is actually, this is an imperial conspiracy set up by the Inquisition to hide the real truth, which is that they're not real, and that either they're associated with rambling, shamble, nurgle zombies full of worms and pox, and it's just a cover-up. Blame it on the Xenos. Blame it on the Xenos coming here and taking all our jobs. But actually, it's the great enemy. So it's an imperial cover-up, and I believe it's 5...
Have you ever seen the X-Files, Matt?
No.
Scully is the worst one.
Oh,
5 Scully.
You think it's 5 Scullies? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I think it's a cover-up. I don't think it's real.
I mean, you have swayed me on that now. And I do like to believe, and if there's anything more I like to believe in than the truth, it's a cover-up.
You know, I mean, when we're
such an obvious cover-up. Believe the drunk sailor in the corner of the bar. Do not believe the opportunistically placed secret documents that happen to be uncovered.
They did just kind of pop up.
But what you think we're being used as a mouthpiece of the Imperium now? We've got some false information, false flagging. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Well, but I'm still just wondering about your new conspiracy. Not trying to shoot it down or anything here, especially on the Warhammer conspiracy, podcast. But like, why would you double hide something that you probably wouldn't want to interact with anyway? Like, it's not like the Imperium guy's like, oh, what, it's a flesh-eating alien, I won't go near it. Oh, what, it's Nurgle guy, oh, I'm going to go up and give it a hug. Well, it's like neither way is going to be helpful.
Yeah, good point. But don't forget what Legion has supposedly uncovered these secret details.
And the timing as well. It was the documents were from a time period where chaos was hidden.
Exactly.
It's becoming more and more clear. Right, it's unraveling before our eyes.
My God, this is like the part at the end of Scooby-Doo where they ripped the mask off the guy and it was the fucking janitor the whole time. I'm going with it. I'm going Scullies. 5 Scullies, Matt. You've convinced me. Don't believe in them. If next time it's like, oh, don't go over there, there's a bunch of slough, that's where you need to start looking for answers.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's hear what the next one is then.
Little Timmy was but a small child in 1990. There was nothing unusual about Timmy. He enjoyed all the normal things every 90s child enjoyed, like learning how to body pop, listening to Paula Abdul, and smoking cigarettes inside.
But that all changed when he found his brother's forbidden copy of White Dwarf magazine under his bed. Its glossy pages held an encyclopedia of otherworldly monsters, the crazy rules that made as much sense to him as magic. But it was the hand-drawn pictures at the back of the magazine that really caught his eye. Pages of heavily armored space marines, savage space orcs, and twisted chaos models to choose and order from. And as Timmy spent more time with the magazine, learning its contents from cover to cover, he eventually decided to order himself one of his favourite models from the hand-drawn section at the back. A model from the range, Frogman. So he put his pocket money in an envelope and sent it off to Games Workshop, but the model never came. his money safely in the greedy pockets of Gad Thorpe and his GW goons.
I agree.
Despondent and disappointed, little Timmy asked his older brother about it, but his brother just laughed in his precocious little face. His stupid brother didn't even understand that there'd never been an army called Frogmen in 40k, and there never would be. It just didn't exist. And over time, little Timmy became Big Timmy, and he persists to this day that he ordered frogmen from the GW range around 1990. And despite it being disputed almost universally, there are some curious souls that still believe Big Timmy's story.
So there you go, boys. Do you think our man Gav Thorpe ripped off a bunch of kids in 1990? In 1990. With the range frogmen, do you think or mutant or frogmen or manfish? Do you think that this range existed and was gobbled up the money of some small children in 1990?
Man, I mean, I've heard rumors of similar races called the Slan. I don't know whether there's anything related to this.
I can tell you that these weren't models that were even made by Games Workshop, but Games Workshop did at one stage sort of experiment with selling some minis that were cast for other games. This was in 1990, some Dungeons and Dragons style games and stuff like that. And basically, yeah, this was the first Wolfen model. You might have seen the very first Wolfen from 99. That was sold in the Mutants range at the back of one white dwarf, and there were hand-drawn pictures. And basically what they had these frogmen models and manfish models that were like fantasy models that had spears, and they're just kind of like crudely resculpted over the spears with guns.
Oh man!
And then started selling them as a 40k army. So for a very brief period of time, frogmen / manfish were canonical in the 40k universe. At least that's what they would have us believe.
I'd go for manfish over frogmen. Manfish. In my head, they look like space sharks, but they probably didn't in lead in 1990.
I've seen some grainy images on the dark web of what somebody claims to be one of these models, and it looks like a kind of a Lovecraft frogman. With a kind of a ray gun kind of thing, a 90s, 50s sort of ray gun. So they're very unusual and probably some of the rarest models in the whole Games Workshop range. If you ever go to a shop or something and you see a frogman with a ray gun for sale, it might be worth something to somebody and worth picking up.
What would their thing have been, do you think? If we believe that these are real, like what would their army thing, like Tower the shooty communists? You've got like the uber religious, like what would they
smell really fishy, they stink, they smell.
Maybe they go to the other side of a pond or something real quick.
maybe they had like the leaper. Do you remember the old leaper rules where things could just like vault over things?
They're all
like
jumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like super jumpy frogs. But they also had a thing a bit like Synapse where you had to carry like a big kind of jug of water around, and if they went too far away from like the water tank, they just dried up and died.
Dried up.
Yeah.
You had like a little one that ran round and spritzed them to keep them alive. Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if maybe their special army ability was to sell off some older fantasy models that Games Workshop had around and make an extra £2 off some unsuspecting little children. Okay. So, that might have been the truest army power that they had.
Maybe we'll find some fossilized ones at some point.
So anyway, after the revelation of last cryptid, what do you think about these guys, the manfish? Do you think that manfish were available from 40k and therefore somewhere canonical in 40k lore?
I think it is entirely possible that GW would want to make the most out of a range that I'm not even sure would have sold well with the original Dungeons and Dragons crew. So I'm going to go with just a full Molder. Just full Molder. He's dropped his towel. The Coveney's got his dick out. That's how firm I am on this being true.
Dick out Molder on this one. What about you, Matt? Are you a believer?
Oh yeah, two Molder. I mean, I completely believe in not the fishmen more than the frogmen, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well, I also believe it. I've seen some pictures online which have convinced me. So there you go. Frogmen / manfish, a real thing.
For millennia, imperial painters and war correspondents have noticed a strange phenomenon occur in pictures painted or gathered from across the galaxy. An obscure green ape-like man peeking out of distant undergrowth or striding blurrily through photos. These strange green creatures have become known as shamrocks, and although there are no reliable reports of an interaction with a beast, the myths continue to propagate through the rare sightings of a human-shaped ape-like blur in pictures and voidcasts from across many worlds. Believed to be a peaceful and shy creature, much of the Inquisition has dismissed the humble shamrock as nothing more than an old wives' tale.
I don't think so.
And rejects the reports as coming from individuals of paranoia, imaginative soldiers looking to get out of duty, and the misidentification of orcs, particularly Commando. But there are some that still believe in the existence of these stoic beasts.
If they're saying they're non-believers, they haven't stepped out from their office or off their couch. You know, I've had sightings. You know, I've seen 3.
And over the centuries, some open-minded inquisitors have driven themselves to ruin tracking the elusive green ape.
As soon as you guys got over, we looked back and gone.
And although no conclusive proof of their existence has been found, the blurry green figure in the back of pictures continues to appear with no good explanation. Could it be coincidence, or could it be another unsolved Warhammer mystery?
Okay, there you go, guys. Shamrock, the big green Warhammer Bigfoot. What do you think about this?
Wow.
Do you think that this could be a thing?
I think I know what this thing could be. I think that I've read enough reports of the secret activities of Sly Marbo that people may well be getting confused. And that's why there's no real reports, because they're often dead.
Well, you know, this is the beautiful thing about this. This is my favourite one that we've covered here today, because this is kind of a true Warhammer cryptid, because there's just like, no one can really know. There have been sightings, there are some people that believe, and there are some references in Warhammer lore that people have cited, believers out there, Shamrock believers have cited, which is during the Rag of Arbutz, an Imperial Guard unit said they were saved from an attack by a helpful Shamrock, but the Imperial Guard unit was heavily intoxicated at the time, so hard to trust them. The Eldar have a word, Shay Rock, which means forgotten green beast of spring, and is believed to refer to a creature that's found in Imperial space. And the Sons of Gwydion have 2 green ape pelts in their vaults that some people cite as being from shamrocks, potentially.
Oh, okay, so there's some real evidence within 40k. I take it back. If Sly Marbo had been anywhere near an Eldar, that Eldar would have been out of existence very swiftly.
Well, I'm going to drop some more evidence for you now, Welshie. And this is just for you, not the listeners at home. Although if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put them up now. I have some photos, some gathered evidence of sightings of possible shamrocks. So you can have a look and tell me what you think. Firstly, about this one. Who's this in the background over here? Shamrock, obviously, right?
Cool. It's all over the place. These are completely different sectors.
Who the hell is this in the back of here? Eh? Look at that. That's the clearest one yet. Shamrock.
I've worked it out. I know what it is. What
do you think? What do you think it is?
There's a number of alien races that are in all sectors of the galaxy, and that's one of them is the orcs, the greenskins. I reckon that these are like the intelligent orcs. They're as intelligent as maybe the Eldar. They've been around for ages. They're created by the old ones.
Do you mean the Krork?
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
If that's the thing, that's what I mean. So they are able to like teleport around. They're everywhere, but they're nowhere. But they're everywhere all the time, and they're always looking for the opportunities to send in the silly idiots, the runts, and create a warg somewhere.
So who are the Krog?
The Krog were like
it.
created by the old ones, but were like the precursors to the orcs supposedly, and they were massive, and they had like power armor, like they were big green armored, super technologically advanced green things that could we've opened a whole can of possibility
we've just bust the fucking lid right off this bastard.
Yes.
All right, now I thought this was just a made up cryptid, but now
and you found this evidence, so it must be true.
I think so. It couldn't not be. We know who we could go and ask though, because you know who supposedly has a Krog and is a big fan of cryptozoology in the 40k universe.
Gav Thorpe.
Not Gav Thorpe, but his close friend, Trazin the Infinite.
Well,
apparently, he's got a Krog in his collection, so he could potentially solve this. Perhaps he likes the mystery.
He's got a bit of everything. I would have thought that old Trazin the Infinite would love to get his hand on a shamrock, or if he could, if there's one out there, Trazin's probably got a lead on it with some of all the dodgy shit he's got his hands on over the years. You think he can't get his hands on a shamrock? Maybe a slough even.
Yeah. Now I'm imagining like Trazin's kind of like Steve Irwin, like Australia Zoo, but with Trazin the Infinite wrestling these various beasts to the ground. I think that could
sticking his finger up the arse of a big green ape man.
Yeah, that's it.
I've got to tell if it's male or female. First thing you've got to do is fist your shamrock.
Yeah, he's got an Australian accent.
One of those hats with loads of corks hanging off it. Cool. So shamrocks. What do we think? Do we believe in them? Do we think that they're a real thing, or do we think they're just a figment of people's imagination?
Completely true.
I think they are multiple things combined into. I think they're sightings of multiple things. I think there could be some orcs. I think it could be some sneaky catachans. It may even be a Krog. It might just be heat haze after a few too many myods. And I think it's kind of gathered. It's like a rolling stone. It's gathered some shamrock.
Green.
So how many scullers or moldies? Got me doing it now, Matt. How many molds or scullies are you going to give it?
I'm going to go 3 scullies. I don't think it's true.
Scullies.
I think it's just misinterpretations.
Ooh, okay then. Matt, what about you? Do you think it's Mulder you believe, or Scullies you don't believe?
I believe a little bit. So 3 Mullins.
3 Mullins coming in, keep flipping into town. All right, well, you see, for me, because I want to believe this, but I know that it's probably bullshit. So I want to put this right in the middle, either way, because I want it to believe, but I also want to propagate the myth. So if you see any proof, if you can find evidence of a shamrock in 40k lore or in pictures, then please send the evidence that you find to the Large Blast podcast, because the truth is out there, and we'll find it if we research together. And it's better if we don't know if it's true or not in some ways.
Those pictures are they? Did you Photoshop those in, or is that actual? Are they actual real photos?
No, they're real.
It is literally like a 40k cryptid where some people are like, I think it's a joke, obviously, but like people are like, making up lore for it and like finding him in pictures and stuff like that.
That's incredible. But that because the picture you showed with the Ultramarines and the Plague Marines fighting, that's the actual box of the 8th edition launch set.
Yeah,
and that actually had that thing in the background. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, some people say that it's but this is just it. It's because kind of part of the myth as well is it in real life, because some people do kind of believe that the artists and stuff are putting it in. Yeah. So it's this kind of like 4D, 4-dimensional cryptid that exists both kind of in mythology of real life and in Warhammer 40k.
It's breaking the fourth wall and then breaking back into it from both directions.
Exactly. So do you believe people are putting in this ape in the artwork? Or do you believe that it exists at all? But it's just, maybe that's just a massive plague bearer in the back there. You never know. So it's a true cryptid, a true 40k cryptid, the Shamrock. Go out there and find us some proof and send it over. Okay, welcome back to this part of the show, the random topic generator, the part of the show where we roll a dice and it generates a random topic for us to talk about. So, Welshie, do you have the company dice out of its airtight container?
I do, yeah. I had to put in the 8-digit code, but I do have it, yeah.
Good. Well, can you roll the company dice for us now, please?
It's a 3. Who do you fight in 40k?
Oh, okay. So if you had to fight someone for Warhammer 40k, who are you going to fight? No.
I mean, what are there any kind of rules? What are we talking? Bare knuckle boxing on the street? Is it a game of countdown?
A fist fight. You've got to fist fight someone from 40k who, like, I think that I might take the Emperor.
Yeah.
You might, because also he's just kind of like a bag of bones, so you could just like push him off the throne.
And then, I don't think you'd get out. I think even if you managed to do that, I think you're not going to live long after doing so.
Maybe I'll become the new Emperor. I could be like, I'm the new Emperor, bitches. Like, pound down.
Yeah, you're thinking like Viking style. You've taken over. Yeah,
I think that he's probably one of the few people who will actually have a chance against. That, you know, I've probably still got some psychic residual energy or something and just blast me it by just touching his bones or some shit. But still, I think from the outset, it's the only person I can really think of in 40k.
Are we allowed like any tech? Are we like completely nude? Can we go in with a little trick up our sleeve?
I don't know. What kind of, maybe. What have you got in mind? I
was thinking like just some Raven guards, but I'd get. Do you know on the Goonies, the kid with all of the contraptions, and he's got that really bright light that like pops out of his chest like a bright headlight.
Oh, okay,
I reckon you could just the Raven guard. He'd be trying to do your sneaky, and then you just poof, shine the light at him. Oh, I can't see anything. It's too bright in here. Sneak in. I think that's
nice.
That's the potential way there.
You could get like one of those caps that have got like a siren on the top. You know, one of those lights that goes round and round.
Strobe.
Just have like strobe. Oh, well, that would just make things harder for you as well. Just, you know, you just see a Raven guard slowly coming up to you and just kicking you.
Yeah. I don't think that. Yeah, you're right. They'd manage to get. You can't have any shadow. You can't have any time where the light's off. I'd still lose, but I think that could be good fun.
Chasing around with a light, a big lamp.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Matt. What about you?
Well, I would have to try and take on the lowest form of green skin. It'd be me versus a grot, and it would probably be neck and neck, but the grot might win.
They're scrappy and a bit savage, aren't they? You know, I mean,
a little bit.
It'd be like, you know, it's like on paper, I could beat a Jack Russell, but in practice, Jack Russell every time takes me out. You know, they're small, they're nippy, they're fast, they're aggressive. They just want it more.
They got big mouth, so they'll probably bite you. But
Grot's probably got like sharp teeth as well. Like
I don't know what tricks. Maybe I've got like I'll have a stick, and when it comes to bite me, I'll put the stick vertically in its mouth, and then it'll be it'll be stuck, and then I'll beat it up somehow. I don't know. Nice. Take out its feet, stand on its toes. They have big toes. It's a bit like a Warhammer 40k golem.
Yeah,
a grot.
But golem would take any of us, I reckon. Golem's he's a wiry lad.
Unless you got the ring, and then you can go invisible.
I think it's quite humble that you could have chosen something to take. You know, you chose the stick as a weapon of choice. Like I could put the gun in his mouth, but no, the stick will do, and then I'll go around behind. Someone will be behind him, and I'll push him over.
I don't own a gun, so I own a stick. So I have to make do a big pointy stick.
Big pointy stick got to do it.
I'm just looking at some of the models next to me here, and I was thinking, could I fight a cherub? I think they're just too cute. Can you imagine having to punch a cherub that had gone haywire, flying towards you? Man.
Be like smashing a big gooey doll to death.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they're cute. The models are cute, but I think real 40k cherubs are probably some of the grimmest, darkest thing. Like they're not cherubs from a painting, are they? They're like half decaying machine.
That's it.
Weird
they
things.
they never really talk that hard about the smell of things in 40k. But
Oh,
servitors
God,
and cherubs and stuff
Oh,
stink.
We
Just
should do a whole episode on smell.
That's why.
the smells of 40k, the scratch and sniff episode we're working on.
That's why so many of them have got like those ball sensors we were talking about last episode.
Oh, yes.
That must be it, because everything smells so bad. It's not for the ball stank, it's for the general servitor stank.
The cherub is kind of like living taxidermy, where they're just, they're
just kind of keeping it all inside. It's just like the
dripping
outside of the cherub, the baby bit is just the outside. It's just the sausage casing for all the goo that they've pumped into it, basically. Yeah. Well, so Matt, you're going to fight a cherub. Me, the emperor.
No, I'm a grotling.
You're a grot. Welshie, I feel like you're being the bravest, fighting some Raven guard guys with a big torch.
I just had it just popped into my head that it'd be quite funny.
Full glory.
I don't think they can even contract their pupils, so I reckon
it would be quite funny if it did just end up you just chasing around a bunch of Ravens, going like, "Fuck you guys!" I
think so. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I guess Welshie wins that one then.
Through bravery.
Do you want to know what it is?
Welcome, Warhammer truthers, to the Warhammer Wide Awake section of the show, where we delve into some of the deepest, darkest Warhammer conspiracies from across the most hidden parts of the internet.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
Games Workshop tried to ban us. Gav Thorpe won't return our calls anymore.
And that was it.
But we know it's all worthwhile to bring you listeners the hard truths about the Warhammer world. So get ready to wake up.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So that's right, Warhammer Truthers. We're back for this second part of the conspiracy cryptid part of the show, where we're going to talk about some Warhammer conspiracies and conspiracy theories that I have dredged up from the deepest, darkest parts of the internet. Page 2 of Google. Eat your heart out. I've gone page 4 or 5 for this shit. I've been on Reddit. I've been all over the place. So if you guys are ready for some of this dark Webbian conspiracy goodness, let's listen to our first story now.
I've got my tinfoil hat on.
Rebuke Gilliman and his Ultramarines are thought of as the model Space Marines. He wrote the very book, Adeptus Astartes, which is a guide for Space Marines to follow in service of the Emperor. But what if the Emperor had a different Primarch in mind to be his paragon of creation? And what if Guilliman was little more than a GW industry plant to look good in front of the cameras? In the Black Library book, Lionel Johnson, Lord of the First, it describes the Lion compared to his brothers with this sentence.
20 demigods of genetic alchemy the Emperor had wrought, but the Lion had been the first, the template, the paragon upon which all of his other brothers were mere copies.
What if that statement was true, and it was the Lion, not Guilliman, who was supposed to lead the remaining Space Marines? The Dark Angels are the first legion, and were created good at almost everything. Spying, sieging, defending, attritional warfare. The rest of the legions only got a bit of what made the Dark Angels' silent professionalism so effective. And what would happen if the Lion were to return? Would he do the things that Guilliman won't? And could it cause a civil war with the Ecclesiarch?
So there you go. What if it's the Lion who should be the real poster boy of 40k, and Guilliman is little more than an imposter, taking glory where it's not due?
Well, I don't just want to believe this. I do believe this. Get those blue boys off of everything and get those. Problem is, the green boys aren't as cool. They were cooler when they were black. Maybe that's the first thing the Lion would do upon his return, is get everyone back in black.
You get a couple of different cool paint schemes with the Dark Angels, because obviously you've got like the standard green guys, but then they've got the biker guys are black, and their Terminator guys are that like white color.
Yeah,
so
you get
you get
Raven
a couple
Wing
of
and
different,
Deathwing.
Yeah, so you get like you get different color units in your army, which is always quite cool. It's not, and we've said it so many times before. I'm sick of seeing every new model come out looking shit because it's painted blue, and then seeing it painted something else and being like, okay, yeah, I actually kind of like it. So could that cool like Dark Angels green maybe be the answer to that?
I think so. I mean, all three of those, the Raven Wing, the Death Wing, or the Green Wing, as we call them, are all better than that horrible ultramarine blue. And Lionel Johnson is just so much better in every way.
I mean, I think that this is an interesting thing that we've talked about in the past as well, is that kind of like the split between the kind of the future soldier guys and the old guys wearing the robes and doing religious-y type stuff, which to us, I feel like we're all in agreement is the more kind of 40k side of things, the guys with the, you know, religious iconery and all this kind of stuff. Do we think that we might see that Lion come back and take his place and shake things up with these two different design elements that we've seen kind of developing? Do we think that maybe they're working towards some kind of civil war type thing? I know that you've sort of talked about it in the past, Welshie. Do you want to maybe put forward your argument as to why you think it might happen?
Yeah, I definitely talked about it before. I think I found it weird, having now read some of the 40k books, that Gilliman isn't more pissed off and doing more about the fact everything's religious. I think that's because he's a pansy and a pushover. And the Lion would come back and he would be confident that he knows what the Emperor wants, and he wouldn't have wanted any of this religious malarkey. And Gilliman would be like, oh, but I went to see the Emperor and he told me. And the Lion just wouldn't have any of it. He'd bitch slap him. It'd be over. But I think I'm going to have to go slightly towards the Scullys, because I think old Dan Abnett has set up that the big anti-religious return could be a man from the Custodes coming back and the King in Yellow doing something about this. But I hope so. I think the path is there for someone like the Lion to come back and be like, this isn't what Daddy wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree. I think that it is a bit of a long shot, but I do think that it's interesting that this is something that I pulled off of, and I don't know, Welshie, if this conspiracy theory that you have is something that you've generated yourself, or if it's something that you found on Reddit as well. Because if is it something that you just thought of in your own time, kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of. I haven't found any of it on Reddit, but it wouldn't have started with. It started with this Dan Abnett book, like I talked about. Valdor is supposed to be coming back, and it's also, there's only one Imperial Primarch that can take Gilliman in empire building, and it's the Lion. Dawn could probably take him in a fight, but in terms of building an empire and respect and strategy, the Lion's head over heels better.
I still find it hard to believe that there'd be like a civil war or whatever in the Imperium. There's too many wars going on as it is. Like having like Space Marines fighting other normal Space Marines would just get kind of confusing. But I do think that if you asked anybody, hey, what do you think the next kind of loyalist Primarch to come out with, even if you said top three, I think they would say the Lion was in there, just because of the way that things have been going and stuff. So I think the likelihood of the Lion coming back as a Primarch is, I would say, over a long enough course of time, 100%. But at this current time, is he going to come back and, you know, have a fight with Gilliman and you know, try to stop all of this kind of stuff? I don't know. But the other stuff, him coming back, I think is very likely.
I think there's an interesting potential schism where Luther returns and is trying to be good, and Gilliman's having none of it that Luther's good, and the Lion comes back and's like, no, I can see you have changed, because all he ever wants is a Legion back, really. And that's the schism that forms between them potentially.
Well, I mean, that's the problem as well. Is there's all this potential chaos stuff with the Dark Angels too. So they lose a bit of credibility on the with all the other Space Marines when they've even the fact that there is people like Luther around in their ranks, and all the kind of these big tasty secrets that they house that could come back to bite them in the arse. And then there's even some people that think they're chaos. They're just full on chaos. So is there some people that are just like, oh, Dark Angels are just chaos guys. So what do you think, Matt?
Well, Yeah, I've never really been one for believing in them in Games Workshop creating a civil war. Obviously, it's always good to have a backstory as to why one particular loyalist army will fight another loyalist army, and I guess they've always set themselves up for that. There's always a backstory as to why your Space Marines will fight other Space Marines. But I mean, we had people went nuts when they introduced Primaris Marines, didn't they? And they said, "Oh, all these Space Marines won't accept them," and now, sure enough,
even the Black Templars,
even the Black Templars. I guess, but I mean, a couple of things like, the Lion is probably the next loyalist Primarch to come back, just because he is in a known location, and Luther has escaped. There is that whole backstory being written. I don't know if he would go nuts if he came back and saw what was happening. I think Guilliman has to be quite. He knows that if he has a full-on tantrum, he will create a civil war in the Imperium, and if he does that, they'll lose. So he has to choose between just letting them be religious nuts, but they're not chaos nuts, or everyone loses. And
well, maybe
probably if the Lion came back, he'd just have to make the same decision.
But maybe Guilliman's waiting for, maybe as much as I hate Guilliman, maybe he's waiting for a brother to come and help him. He can't do it at the moment. But
do you also think maybe there's a part of Guilliman that just like either doesn't care or doesn't really know himself, because he's been dead for ages, essentially, and then he was brought back to life, and all his kind of faith has probably been brought into question quite hard during all that time when he was like dying nanosecond by nanosecond from a slit throat or something, until someone came in and just stuck a plaster over it.
But sometimes I don't know. I sometimes I also feel like if the Lion was better than Guilliman, the Lion wouldn't have lost half his legion, his home world, and he wouldn't be dead in a cave. I think at some point, the narrative has got to change. Like, why are the Ultramarines why were they the largest legion? Why are they the largest chapter?
Whoa.
Why is the Ultramarines?
Well, here's a conspiracy twist for you.
Why is the
because apparently they got all the Space Marines from the two missing legions.
Supposedly. But do you know what I mean? Like, how come Guilliman is the Primarch to come back?
Oh, because he's like the poster boy, isn't he?
He's blue.
He wasn't then, though, was he? He's the poster boy now.
The kind of most vanilla. He's the sort of easiest one for people to sort of put out there. I mean, it's hard. The Lion's kind of a harder sell because he is like there are people that say he could be chaos or whatever. So in a way, Guilliman's the industry plant, as was said in the story.
A good guy. All right. Well, I'm gonna say I want to believe it. I think it would be great, but I don't think GW will ever do it.
Okay, Matt, what are your thoughts?
Well, the Lion is coming back, and personally, I think the Blood Angels are much cooler than the Dark Angels. I'd rather see everything painted red. I don't know. There's no way it's going to happen. But also, I mean, frankly, there's little civil wars all over the Imperium, isn't it? I mean, they've gone beyond the point of being able to even have a galactic civil war, because they're just fighting everywhere. There's civil wars all over the place.
I mean, I guess for me, I kind of agree. I do think that it is possible for the Dark Angels to be the poster boys. Like, let's not forget that they were in a box set at some stage, weren't they? That specifically Dark Angels 7th edition, and that was a really great box set. The model range was really good. So I think it is possible. Obviously, they've gone more generic Marines for the new releases, but I don't think that the Civil War is going to happen. I think it would be too confusing. It would piss off the fans. I think I want the Lion to come back and give Guilliman a wedgie and kick him off the front cover of everything, and then be in the lore. But I think that for the time being, Guilliman's here to stay. Okay then. Well, let's check out our next conspiracy theory, shall we?
Psykers in the 40k universe are as feared as they are crucial to the survival of man. Their powers make them both a destructive weapon and as vulnerable as a newborn lamb to the strict restrictions put in place by the authoritarian regime. But how did the Imperium come to be this way? There are some truth seekers that believe that the Emperor never arrived on Earth at all and had been there the whole time, faking an arrival when it seemed fit to him. They believe that he was one of the first gifted humans who grew psychic powers and then hunted down the other early psykers and consumed their souls to reach almost godlike levels. Once he had killed all the first psykers, it put humanity's psychic awakening back thousands of years and opened the door for an opportunist leader. So I ask you this, listener, is the Emperor what he seems, or is he maybe a snake oil salesman who started life as little more than you or I?
So, this is the conspiracy that the Emperor was born on Earth as a gifted, early gifted human who went around kind of like Highlander and eating all the other early psykers until he was the one which set humanity's psychic awakening back far enough for him to slide in and pretend to be some kind of godlike leader.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well,
I believe this.
This is your belief. Eating psykers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they didn't elaborate as to how he might consume the souls. So I don't
Sucking
know.
on their ass.
But then maybe because it's like, Space Marines could do that thing where they eat someone's brain and get their memories. Maybe it only stands to reason that if the Emperor gives you a rim job, he gets your psychic powers.
I think that's it. Yeah, chuck that in the conspiracy. I don't believe this. I don't believe. There's enough evidence. There's more of these perpetuals popping up that were around at the same time as the Emperor that knew him personally. He is the oldest of them, so I suppose that leaves room for him to have consumed originals. But
so what? These are kind of like his old schoolmates or something.
Yeah, possibly even an old girlfriend, the one that helped him make the. I mean, her name was Astarte, which is another great piece of Warhammer naming.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he just happens to be the most powerful, and if he's not just a normal perpetual, then he's a chaos god.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I think, I mean, we were talking about Lorgar and how Lorgar was embarrassed essentially in front of his legion, and his whole legion were embarrassed by the Emperor, and he tried to take him down a peg or two. And I think a few episodes ago we spoke about religion and the imperial faith, and I think actually the science stuff is just not true. I think the Emperor is some form of god, and this is his end goal. Wherever the 40k universe is going is where the Emperor intended it to go, and I don't know. I flip between, as I said before, the fifth chaos god or a Catan. Is the Emperor a Catan? Like, could that you know? So, but this,
I feel like you might be straying into separate conspiracies.
But
slow down, Truth Seeker.
Yeah.
But with, I think that this is also a good time to maybe move on to our next conspiracy.
On the Iron Throne he rests, covered in wires and tubes to preserve whatever is left of his spirit and keep humanity safe. To some he is a gilded god, merciful and benevolent. To others he is the great inventor and architect of mankind. Some even think of him as an imposter and lord of little more than the imagination of peasants. But whatever people think of the Emperor, one thing is for sure. No one knows how he became so powerful and what could have caused his greatness. There are even some who whisper the biggest heresy of all, that the Emperor is actually a chaos god.
Bum, bum, bum.
So, we've talked about it briefly in the past. We've tried to continue talking about it on the last question as well. It's like, is the Emperor a chaos god?
Yeah.
Yes.
And why? So why do you think he's a chaos god?
I
What evidence
don't
can you bring to
necessarily.
this?
I think chaos is a word we've grouped the other gods to. I think he is like all of them, a necessary presence related to things that are immortal through time and eternity of races, and I think he feeds off of war. I think it's right there in the first lines, and you open the rule book. In the grim darkness of the future, there is only war, and it's as a result of the actions of the Emperor, because he could have stopped stuff.
I think he also represents like order, but ultimately this kind of endless war is so perfect for him. Like the armies of humanity. It says there he's protected by his inexhaustible armies on a million worlds. And if you're like the force of ordered war, what more could you want than having inexhaustible armies? The question
then is, where does he reside? Right? Does he reside within the warp? That makes me think he's not a chaos god.
Wow.
Because he's never mentioned to. His presence isn't like the presence of Nurgle.
In my searching for these conspiracies, there was another quite interesting conspiracy theory which I didn't end up using, but which was basically suggested that the Catan were kind of real space equivalent of chaos gods. So in the same way that chaos gods are made of warp energy and feed off the warp and the emotions of humans, Catan are feed off of star energy and kind of living sort of just the life force of things in real space. So that might be quite interesting if like you thought about the Emperor in those sort of terms.
I think it's fun, all of this stuff, and it's because it's not what's hinted at, right? It's fun to think of the opposition, but I actually think it's a better story that he is just the most powerful man.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of fun spinning this off, but the fact that he is just the most powerful man and has attempted everything and still failed to an extent, but also trapped us in this grim darkness of no one is really truly good, is what makes 40k. If he was just a god,
all his best efforts, and he just made war anyway.
But there are bits in the books where his presence appears in the warp, and he frightens off Nurgle, and like so much stuff is scared shitless of him.
I mean, he can project his presence into the warp, but there's never any mention of there being like a whole domain of war or a big golden domain within the warp. So where is he existing if it's not?
Unless
he really wanted to just be a decrepit corpse in a chair.
But the whole time I've been thinking about Slaanesh, and how Slaanesh was just like born from like the death scream or
of the Eldar,
through
the
Eldar.
destruction of the Eldar.
So that was like a chaos, a god being born. But I wondered where, like, maybe there's something where the Emperor was created through that, some event. Yeah,
maybe he was created through the destruction of the old ones or something like that.
Maybe. The one of the conspiracies I like about the Emperor is that the Horus Heresy and modern 40k, this isn't the first time he's failed, and that the dark age of technology and the war in heaven, the war with the men and machines, was actually like the Emperor's first attempt, and he keeps trying and failing. At like he's always been there in the background, and sometimes he emerges and he fails at empire building, and then he goes back to and then starts again. And like this is just one of those periods of times where he but he can't fail because they put him in a machine.
But to go back to the original question, then I think I don't think he's a chaos god. I think if he's anything other than a man, it's more ethereal than our concept of him being a fifth chaos god. There's more power or majesty or weirdness behind it than that.
So what do you think about the idea of him potentially being more Catan-like?
I think that's more likely than a chaos god, because it's more, it doesn't really make sense in the, I know chaos gods don't make sense, but within the lore, he would be an unknown quantity to the vast majority of the galaxy.
Well, yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think he's a chaos god. I think he's more likely to be Catan-like. But there is also kind of a part of me that thinks when they get to the very last book of the Horus Heresy, he's dying in the arms of like some, Primarch of a Primarch or whatever. They go like, "Oh, Emperor, where was it that you got all your power?" And he's like, "From subscribing the £20 a month bundle to Warhammer Plus." And they've just been a long game by the marketing team all this time.
That would be excellent. I do think at the end of there's going to be a big reveal that pulls together all of the lore to a point that touches on all of the conspiracies we've talked about. I think something's going to happen that does that changes a shift, but not so big as to ruin it, but a shift that pulls together some of the threads that people have been pulling at for years.
I say, we've spoken about these conspiracy theories before, but I agree. I actually don't think he's any of them. And I think he is just what he says he is on the tin. He's just like a superhuman psyker. He's none of those gods. He's humanity's god in a way, but he's just a powerful psyker, and that's it.
Well, I mean, it's going to be one of those questions that as soon as we find out, it's just going to completely ruin 40k forever. Like you've got to have some big mystery.
Yeah, I think as we've said, that's what I want to believe in. I like the Chaos God and the Catan theory and whatever. They're interesting to think about, but I don't want any of them to be true. So I believe in him just being psycho.
All right. Well, there you go. If you've got any theories at home, truth seekers, about some of the conspiracy theories you've heard today, or some theories that you'd like to get out there, then don't forget to write into the Large Blast podcast, and we're all about broadcasting the truth. This is what I call the zip zap rap. Okay, welcome back to the last part of the show, a little quiz we like to call the Lords of Lore, where I pit Matt and Welshie against each other. And I've heard some recent criticism that the Lords of Lore is fucking shite. It's just me, too lazy to come up with something and doing spelling bees and stuff like that. Well, more charade you are, because I've done a proper quiz this time with real questions and everything. So, are you guys ready?
Ooh-wee. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. First question. Genestealer cults can infiltrate orc communities, but why don't they do it very often? Is it because, one, Genestealer hybrids find orc fungus distasteful? Is it because, two, orcs only respect warfare, so unless the Genestealer offspring are very warlike, they do not progress through orc society to a point where they can influence any orcs? Is it number three, because the hybrids are significantly less aggressive than normal orcs and are discovered immediately? Or is it because, four, the hybrids are born with pitch black eyes and are easily discovered?
Three.
I was going to say three.
Well, a couple of threes. The hybrids are significantly less aggressive than normal orcs.
It's the comedy answer. It's the most awkward.
Well, no, I thought that was the most logical.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Logical, because lore is like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, you're both correct. That is right. A point for both of you. Now, question number two. Seals, those sort of animals, big dogs.
Not the Kiss from the Rose.
Sea dogs.
Style.
Not the guy who sings Kiss from a Rose, but the seals exist in 40k. But what are they known as? Is it A, honkers, B, blubber dogs, C, water meats, or D, salt hounds?
Oh man, you got two answers in there that relate to dogs. They are like dogs without any legs.
I'm going with salt hounds.
Hounds.
I'm gonna go for honkers.
You're going to go for honkers. Well, you're both wrong, I'm afraid. It was blubber dogs.
Blubber dogs.
That's right. Seals in 40k are known as blubber dogs. Okay. All right. Question number three. Which famous real-world scientist's skull was dug up by the AdMech to create a weapon? Is it A, Thomas Edison, B, Alfred Nobel, C, Nikola Tesla, or D, Robert Oppenheimer?
Tesla.
Definitely Tesla.
Tesla. All right. Both saying Tesla. Well, you both get a point. That's correct.
Yeah.
Right. Which Space Marine chapter has board game nights? Is it A, Space Wolves, B, Imperial Fists, C, Iron Warriors, or D, Word Bearers?
I know this one.
Ooh, one of the two. One of the first two. So
I'm going to let Matt pick first because I know.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's Space Wolves or Imperial Fists. I'm gonna have to go to Space Wolves because I know that they play the board game. Yeah, Space Wolves.
Well,
Okay,
I
Space Wolves
think
from Matt.
Space Wolves do play. I think they play Hanafatafel, which
Yeah.
is the old Viking game. But I think, Stoney, you may have stumbled across the Iron Warriors that literally play 40k against each other. They take it in turns to try and like take out fortresses that each other set up. So I'm going to go Iron Warriors.
I'm sorry, but from the information that I had, it was Space Wolves. So yeah, they play that Viking game against each other. 40k.
It's where the phrase "to turn the tables" comes from. Because you play the game, you when you're about to lose, you switch and let the opposition try and play from where you think you would lose from. Very Viking.
Right. Who owns the Mona Lisa in Warhammer 40k? Is it A, Trazyn the Infinite? Is it B, Malkador? Is it C, Roberto Guliman? Or is it D, Fabius Bile?
I think it's D. I don't know why I think that, but I think it's D. Just to clarify, I got a point for the last question, didn't I?
Yeah,
you did, yes.
Yeah, cool.
I'm sure Stoney's keeping track. I am going to go Malkador.
Malkador.
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
Okay. Well, Welshie, you are right. You're tying for 3 points apiece. It was Malkador, for some reason, has the Mona Lisa.
What do you reckon Fabius Bile would just be doing one of those like FAP tributes over it all the time? The Mona Lisa.
I reckon that Fabius Bile kind of appreciates art in a weird way. He's probably got like loads of paintings up on his wall. He's probably got those cool like airbrushed images of like a lady in front of a motorbike with a tiger and stuff like that. I think that's his kind of cool.
I reckon he's got some silk pajamas with the same picture on them.
Oh hell yeah! All right. So question number 6: what is Gazgal Fraker's real name, and who is he named after?
I know this one too. If you want to guess, Matt.
The rumor is
he's Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
Because his name is Gazgal Mag Uruk Thraka.
But I don't think that's true.
I like to think it's true. It was very political when it came out as a concept. The beardy weirdos in the north made
That's
like,
it. And you had the space squats that were like miners, and they hated the orcs.
And they got crushed.
Deep. Yeah,
true.
Yeah, I think that's true. I like to think that's true. Put it in the conspiracy episode 2.
Okay, so Welshie's going with Margaret Thatcher. What do you reckon, Matt?
I don't think that's true. But I mean, I literally can't think of a kid. What's the little gremlin that comes with him? Morkai.
Macarai.
I don't know.
Macarai was like a foreshadowing of Barack Obama. He's Barack Macarai. That would be like his orc name. Anyway, back on with politicians naming after all. Yeah, of course it's Margaret Thatcher. It's Gazgal Maga Fracker or something. Yeah, so Welshie,
it's not true.
and obviously an extra point for the foreshadowing of Barack Macarai. Okay, what does Guliman keep in his bedroom? Is it A, a fragment of the Emperor's robes? Is it B, his model train set? Is it C, the original copy of the Adeptus Astartes? Or is it D, a shirtless statue of Sanguinius?
I'm going to go with the original Codex Astartes. It's the only thing, yeah.
I mean, it's...
First edition Codex Astartes.
He's just so boring. He'd have his own book next to his bed.
He's signed it to himself.
Yeah.
He's just put it up next to his bed.
He's got a blue dust cover on it, but it's just a blue cover anyway. It's double blue.
I just didn't want to go for that answer, so I'll just go for one of the others. And I reckon so. It's probably the Codex, but I'll go with the first one, which is the robe.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid you're both wrong. It's actually the shirtless Sanguinius statue.
I really hope you were about to say it's the train set.
I know. I kind of put that in there as something that would be like, oh, maybe.
Is it shirtless Sanguinius like bent over with the train set tunnel like coming out of his arse?
Question number 8. Which chapter of Space Marine is known for having slower reactions than other Space Marines? Is it A, Space Wolves? Is it B, Iron Hands? Is it C, Salamanders? Or is it D, Imperial Fists?
I'm going to go Salamanders.
I reckon
Salamanders from Belgium.
Their whole thing is like philosophy and taking your time and thinking things through. So maybe them.
I think it's between second and the fourth one. I think, Iron Hands and Imperial Fists.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Iron Hands.
Iron Hands from Matt. Okay, well, I can tell you, Welshie, you're correct. It is the Salamanders, who are the slowest of Space Marines, apparently.
It doesn't matter because they only use flamers. So you just get closer to the flame.
To be fast. Yeah. Okay. All right. Last. So this is question number 9. Who are the 2 oldest serving Space Marines? So this is worth 2 points.
Does this include dreadnoughts?
Bjorn.
Dreadnoughts.
Bjorn
the fell-handed.
Bjorn is one of them. Who is the second oldest? Well, also equally as old. The two, one of the people that could take the title as oldest serving Space Marine.
Gilliman?
He's not a Space Marine.
What about the Khan, the Betrayer?
I'll go Araman then.
Araman and Khan. I'm afraid you're both wrong. It's Dante,
the
Blood Angel guy. All right. Yeah. Okay, so then last question. Going into this last part. So Matt, you've got 4 points. Welshie, you've got 6. So all to play for on this last question, which is worth 15 points, as is tradition.
This is the Lords of Lore, I remember.
This is the true Lords of Lore. What sound does a lasgun make? Best impression wins. Go.
Pew pew. Matt wins. That was way better.
Oh, okay. Well, Matt, I have heard in official law that they actually go snap, crackle, and pop, is what it says. That's what it said on this thing I was reading. But anyway, Matt, you did a better impression of a cool lasgun, so you are the winner of this week's Lords of Lore. How does it feel?
That feels amazing.
Good. All right, cool. Well, I guess we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on the conspiracy episode, Truth Seekers, and we'll see you next time on the Large Bass Podcast.
Make sure you check in your closet.